Being different in energy quite often means being alone. This aloneness translates into loneliness in our emotional bodies. Watch this video and find out how not to do that so that you can remain being on your path, as in alone. We each walk our path alone, but at the same time being connected to oneness and not actually feeling lonely. I often hear from you guys about this experience of being isolated, being energetically so different. That's partially because we are starseeds, partially because we're on a different step in the ascension stairway, so we're actually experiencing life in a very different way. So it makes sense that by experiencing life differently, we will also feel like there are not that many people around us that we can connect to. Of course, there is a base frequency called love that everybody can connect to. Animals, trees, algae in the pond, fish in the sea, birds in the sky, pterodactyls, I mean any alive or not anymore in form being, like pterodactyl is an energy imprint of a being that's prehistoric, but it still exists in the morphogenic field as an imprint, and so many other animals who have passed on from the material plane. And everything else that is in existence is all interconnected. Now, if we experience this connection while being a strong individuated self, then we will not feel alone, ever. And that kind of energy, every single being, material or non-material, can feel. So this is a shared frequency that if you feel alone and you connect to this oneness that interwoven into the creation itself, you already are not alone. But we're not necessarily talking about that kind of energy. We're talking about more of a personal connection, something that feels, well, I'm too different, so because of it, I can't connect to anybody. Talking to my friends about this is too complicated, they will not understand. Well, perhaps that means you need different friends. Talking to people that know you from the time before you may be engaged into more of a conscious exploration, they might not share this kind of path. But being a starseed or being a forerunner, which is a conscious earthling, is automatically sets you sort of in a different path than a lot of other people. Part of that difference is, as I said before, literally a frequency perceptual range becomes so wide compared to where majority of people are that they cannot comprehend you. Partially, it's also because there is an encodement of memory of what we brought in with us that begins to activate once we start to move on the pathway of enlightenment. And that memory means that we remember more where we really come from, who we really are, and why are we here, and all those other things that allow us to remain in a higher 3D vibration. So suddenly people in a lower 3D can't quite understand us, and we don't seem like we can really understand them. So, few important points here. First of all, we can always understand another person if we return back to that all-encompassing oneness energy. This is a really important fact because there is no separation. There is two different timelines right now. It's bifurcating. So we got higher 3D Earth with more harmonious templates and lower 3D Earth with less harmonious templates. One is going up, another one is standing still or even going down. So it seems like it's so different and there's no way to relate to people once you start moving in the ascension timeline, when in reality it's all one thing. So we can always relate. We just have to go into our heart chakras and connect to the oneness energy. If we can do that, there is compassion. Compassion evens everything out. Consciousness, no consciousness, doesn't matter. Everybody deserves equal amount of love. So once we're in that energy, we automatically are relatable and we're able to relate to anybody in any timeline. Another point here is that if we don't feel good enough about who we are or strong enough on our own path, then we tend to look for something external that is going to in some way give us proof that we're doing fine. The problem with that is that proof usually comes from human beings appreciating what we're doing or supporting us or understanding us. So then we feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing something right because, see, my friends support me. And here we run into a problem that if majority of the friends are in a lower 3D timeline or just simply not on the consciousness path, they cannot really support us. And then it seems like we don't have any proof that we're doing well, and then we get lost and upset and confused, and in doing so we actually go down, down, down in frequency into that separation mentality in a lower 3D timeline. I hear this a lot when people say like, oh, I met up with my girlfriends or my friends from the past that knew me and we always were able to relate so well, and haven't seen each other for a year, and now we got together and oh my God, I had absolutely nothing to talk with them about. And their conversations were so shallow. Now, it's best not to judge because really shallow is still, something that the person might be experiencing and that might look shallow to us because we're not inside their life. But the part about being bored and feeling like nothing in common, that is true. And the reason for that is because once you start to wake up, you are looking for meaning in every single event. You are consciously aware that no matter what is going on, you put it there on your path by the law of resonance. You brought it into your life. There is a purpose for it, and you want to be aware what that purpose is so that you wake up. Majority of human beings are not interested in this particular self-discovery because, one, they don't think that they create their own reality. They have not woken up to that fact of the universal law. And another part is that the meaning in events seems symbolic or metaphysical or something out there somewhere but not applicable to their everyday life because that's not their path. So when we then start to bring something up that makes sense to us, most of the time this would be, creating maybe an eye roll or maybe something else, but pretty much will not be understood if the person you're talking to is not on the consciousness path and at the same time is choosing to defend their position within the lower frequencies. If on the other hand you're talking to somebody who perhaps is not consciously on the path but is open somewhat to the possibilities of what's out there in the world, in the universe, then if you do mention something of a higher frequency concept, that person might actually go, that's interesting. I haven't thought about it this way, but that's a better way of looking at it than I've been looking at it. That is a good thing. A lot of times we Starseeds and Forerunners are catalysts for people's awakening. Not everybody's going to be consciously looking forward to waking up though, which is why we tend to elicit all sorts of odd reactions in people. Positive reaction would be you mention something and a person goes, oh wow, thank you, this is a very interesting way of looking at it, I'll try that. Negative reaction would be the person fighting you or getting upset with you even though you have not said anything to upset them in your mind. The reason for that is because just the fact of the frequency range that you are in is a catalyst for their higher self to wake up, which is the lower self nightmare within that person. That particular person you just activated the higher self of, their lower self is saying, oh my God, invasion is happening. And since they're not quite aware of their higher self, they would be blaming then you as the bad messenger sort of did something and now they have to pay attention or be self-responsible. So this is something that occurs anyway just because we're of the different frequency range, but we might want to be careful as to with how much of that we choose to have in our lives. It's one thing to, in passing, connect to somebody and end up becoming a catalyst for them. They might be upset about it or not, whatever. And it's a whole other thing to do that when you are aware that that person is not going to like what you're saying, they are resisting, and then you continue. So this is very important not to do so. because then we're putting ourselves in a position where we're trying to raise somebody up on our energy. And that is never good because we create karma that way. So what can Starseeds and Forerunners do in order to not feel isolated? Well, number one is connection to oneness. Everything is interconnected. If we connect to that base frequency of love, then we can never be alone. The loneliness component does not activate. Loneliness is an emotional reaction to being single. Being single is not a problem. As I said before, every single person who is choosing to wake up going to have to do this alone. Now, we can do together waking up as well as a group consciousness, but individual perceptual lens is the very component of what waking up means. So without being an individual, no one can wake up. You cannot wake up while you blended with everyone else. Waking up implies individuality. So number one is remain in connectedness of all things, but being a self at the same time. That is called individualized oneness. Many, many sparks, all in one energy, sort of interconnected. So that's one of the things we can do to not feel isolated. Number two, we can connect to each other. This is what this website is about. This is why I teach the classes I teach. This is why I help you guys to connect. And there are many other ways to do so on the internet and in person. There are all sorts of prayer groups and anything you can think of nowadays because we have connection worldwide. That is very important. There's also non-technological ways, as in sitting in meditation and connecting to other people who are also vibrating at the same frequency. A lot of you who do the work for the planet or with nature or with planetary grids tend to do that, and you know who you are, so you can feel that energy connectedness with other people. That is another way. So either through literal connection, internet, in person, or through energetical connection during meditation. That is connecting to one another. So then we can actually share a somewhat horizontal frequency. So it's like a tribe, but kind of a harmonious tribe, not the lower frequency tribe that exists right now on the planet Earth. And number three that we can do is relate to our purpose. Every starseed is here on a mission. We are here to help humankind, which means we first have to help ourselves, just like in an airplane, right? Put the mask on yourself first, then help the person next to you. Otherwise, you pass out helping the person next to you. So this is exactly what tends to happen with us when we, the souls from the stars, arrive onto this planet. We care so much and we engage so much and we try to help so much, and then we get polluted and traumatized. And before long, we can't see straight because we relate too much to the ones we came to help. And we dissolve who we are into who they are. And in doing that, we forget that we're here on a mission. And when that is forgotten, then there is a purposelessness, this lostness energy. And lostness always goes to loneliness because we are still energetically different. Even though we relate emotionally more to where people are, we actually energetically still different. So there's always going to be this experience of, you know, something is off. I don't fit in. No matter how hard I try, it doesn't seem to work. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So this is because we don't remember the purpose. The purpose is here. We are to be the examples of what it means to be harmonious, to be conscious, to hold ourselves to the higher standard, to vibrate differently, to then help the planet and humankind do the same. So as long as we do those three things, we are not going to be lonely. We are going to walk the path of conscious awakening alone as an individualized soul on the path of enlightenment, while connecting with other souls that are doing the same. So this is what you can do to help your emotional body not go into trauma when you recognize that you're different.